kind of dark up here. Okay. Um. Shit. All right. Okay. So today, paper towels. We only have black. We'll get. That's great. Okay. So check out the dialysis. Um, check out the dialysis pre-checklist. If you like. You don't have to actually. Actually, I don't know why you would. Just for historical purposes. So I guess I'm just letting you know. This is a couple weeks after the dialysis pre-checklist, and I just gotta say it in the way that it comes to my mind. All right. All right. So first of all, just what are we doing here? Um, okay. So it theory update. It's really life mission update. All right. So step number one was be confused. Step number two was learn. Step number three was synthesize. Was synthesize. And step number four is apply. Um, hope that's okay. Oh, okay. So I did a good job of that for a long time. Did a good job of that, doing that for a while. Um, Almost as long as here, because I actually started reading about and being interested in the brain before I was confused by people. Um, all right. So then for synthesize, so that's what I want to do in this video. I'm going to give you a little tiny explanation of what it theory is, maybe, and I'll tell you how many minutes to skip for that. Um, and I just need to think out loud. I just need to talk to someone about this. Um, I have to publish it. Yeah. So anyway, so we're trying to figure out what's going on because here's what's going on. Gosh, it's really dark up here. Here's what's going on. I just spent the last couple of weeks with a good friend. I was able to talk to her actually about a lot of it theory, and that was cool, kind of invigorating, I guess, um, to be heard on that. Um, and now that she's gone, time to get back to work because I didn't get a lot of work done while she was here. Time to get back to some real work. Got a lot of things bouncing around in here, so let's organize it. And I need your help with that. I need to really believe that I'm working with someone here. Okay, so to synthesize, all right. So I was confused. That's weird. The words coming out of that person's mouth. That's weird. Do you believe that? I'm not. Anyway, I was confused. I learned a lot. Of course, there's still a lot to learn, so we're gonna, and we don't know what we have to learn, but the things that we do know that we have to learn, we're gonna list those. But we did a great job there, enough to have been able to move on to synthesize. Um, and the synthesis started in maybe 2014, but then it was in 2020 that, or 2021 that we thought of sugar rules. 2022 that it's voices, and also 22 it becomes it theory. Um, so that's great, and the learning between 2015 and 2024 helped a lot with that. All right, so we synthesize the stuff that we learned, and then also, using our own observations as well. Oh, and another reason that we're doing this is that this is what I do. This is all I can focus on. I don't do anything for money. Um, um, which can sound crazy in our society. That a 33-year-old be not have money and then be doing something else, and then that his parents feed him. Um, hey, look, we all have our specializations here, and that in a future society we'll be able to appreciate that. Um, and also, we won't, you know, make it such that you can't hunt and fish, or you need money in order to do those things. You need money and absolutely need money in order to eat, whether it's buying land to, have a garden, or whether it's getting a fishing license, um, whatever it may be. Um, so I haven't I've been just focused on this, but I feel really good about, because I was spending too much. You can see I got a little fat too. So to have my dad say, "Hey," I guess this is getting kind of personal, but "Hey, you can spend this much on the card," legitimizes what I'm doing, because he had said to me, "Hey, you got to find a job." I said, "No, I'm just gonna focus on this." But we can do whatever. We can do 25 a month, 0, whatever you want. And he gave me an amount, and that just really feels like he believes in me, and maybe you guys believe in me. So let's concretize what we're doing, where we're going. Okay. So I was confused about the mind, learned about the mind, synthesized about the mind. Um, and then if can we include and synthesize also, like synthesize for other people, so like transmit. Um, so one of the things is fiction, some works of fiction. We're not going to talk about that at all today. Oh, fiction and lyrics. Okay. That's one way to transmit. Uh, we're doing Sassy, the street interviews, publishing those interviews, and you can see from the first one to the most recent, it's changed. I've taken more of a explaining role rather than just surveying, and well, when people are open to it. Um, I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff in those videos. Um, the next step for Sassy, the next step for Sassy is a test and a handout. Yeah, so that's something we hadn't really thought about. I mean, we have in the past, but not okay. So yeah, so that's a big thing. I need something else to stand on here. Okay. Um, so I think would like us to talk about what that means. I'd like us to talk about what that means. Okay. So one thing we're going to talk about is the Sassy test and text. Okay, so that's one thing. That's part of the synthesis and transmission. Um, okay, and then I don't know whether this is synthesize or apply. All right. Anyway, let's move to apply and just state some of those things. Um, to do list. To do list. Okay. So that's one thing. So now, as far as the applying, goes, so language improvements, um, dialysis, so that's a communication system for how two people could discuss something. Got to brainstorm. What would that mean? And then I don't. Then even when it's not two people who are willing to do a discussion, you still have to be able to dissect or to. We need a way. We need a. People need to be able to have a scheme in their minds where they can look at what someone says and organize their thoughts and also encourage sort of the right thoughts about what that person says. Here's what I mean. I'm not going to give an example. I'm just going to say it again, I think, or something like it. Um, when you disagree with someone, so someone is saying something, and I think we're going to look at some examples. What do you do with that? Now, it's going to automatically trigger certain sort of counter arguments. It's going to trigger an agit from you, but what's something constructive that you can do with that? So dialysis is a part of, it's one option for critical resolution, right? We have our four R's. Oh, I said I was going to explain a bit of it theory. Just bear with me. We have our four R's, which are, so they all start with critical, recognition, reflection, let's say research, reflection, resolution. All right. So critical recognition is recognizing. So critical. It's all borrowing critical from the sense of critical thinking. I don't really like that term because I don't think it's used. Anyway, I don't like it. But we can break it down into these, and then I do like it. So the first step to thinking critically is to recognize what the thinking apparatus is, basics of how it functions, the value of your interpretations, common errors in your own interpretations, things like that. Okay. So that's obviously step zero, sort of. So you have to do that, and that's probably the one that we're missing the most. People don't even know that this is a missing thing. Everywhere else, we have some pieces. Not enough, but some. Critical research, basically the scientific method. So, and this isn't how to think. This is not how I should think. This is how do I think already. Critical reflection is how you should think. This is how do I think already. Okay. Um, Critical research is getting information in a good way. Now that you know how this receiver sort of works, you have some idea, or you have enough idea to be humble about it at least. To have, you know, pulse the whole Dunning-Kruger thing. So let's get rid of that Dunning-Kruger, And this is Dunning-Kruger about your interpretations. Don't want that. Okay, critical recognition, critical research, science. Um, and then also, I mean, that's for getting firsthand information. But if you're doing like a literature review, well, that won't be called science, but critically taking in information, um, or trying to get information. Yeah. And then next, once you have that information, being able to reflect on it. Um, knowing the fallacies, going back to that critical recognition, knowing the formal fallacies, and the formal fallacies you might not have learned in critical recognition, or maybe, I don't know, but you definitely have to know them for critical recognition, reflection, the informal, the formal. Yes, you have to know all the mallets. Yeah, so no mallets. Okay. Critical reflection. Um, yeah, you know, being able to go from premises to a conclusion and sort of prudently and also judiciously and also sort of catching your mistakes along the way, or some of them anyway. And then, of course, finally, boop, boop, boop. Well, no. Finally, we have critical resolution, which is where someone who has at least this, or two people who have at least this, they can do this stuff together. They try to resolve a difference in interpretation based on the empirical research and based on reasonable principles and based on a recognition of how their and the other person's mind basically functions. Okay, great. You know what? This both people don't have to be. Critical resolution can also sort of happen individually. You're in a dialogue with someone, you check these boxes basically. The other person's doesn't. But you try to at least, you could still resolve the conflict if, for instance, you find that you're wrong. Um, so it wouldn't be a by resolution where both people agree on the resolution, but the question can still be resolved for the individual. And that's kind of what I want us to talk about today. So this is like critical by resolution for dialysis, but then we need some kind of like a dissecting, a critical listening or something, or a critical something. And that's critical monoresolution. Okay. All right. So now I don't really know whether that's critical reflection, critical resolution. You tell me what you think, which works best. Because we could also say critical reception. I don't know. I don't know. Skepticism. I don't know. But because so I need to give you some maybe no, fuck it. I'm not, maybe I can't get you caught up really because just because I just realized you might not even know what I mean. Like, what do you do when someone disagrees with you? And what I don't mean is how do you convince them? And what I don't mean is how do you protect yourself emotionally? What I mean is what I mean is let's suppose that you are not interested in a debate, that you really want to learn from this interaction. Maybe you want to trust the person, or you do trust the person. And so you want to be able to sift through what's right and what's wrong, what's reasonable and what's not. By the way, so what's empirically justified and what isn't, what's reasonable and what isn't. Now, since you're not yourself reasonable either, that's not, an easy task, but, we do have mechanisms to imitate reason, and then also we have knowledge of those mechanisms. And so, recognizing malice in what the other person is saying, I don't know, I feel like I need a word here for this. Of course. Monalorous. Okay. Right. So monalorous. Okay. So, at some point in the next several years, we're going to work on this. We're not really ready to work on a system with pen and paper. There's a little even form you can fill out, we're imagining, and a way that people can have a dialogue, keep track of the thing. We have to learn a lot about dialectics, by the way. Dialectics. We have to learn Lojban for that. Gosh, I'm getting overwhelmed here. Okay. All right. So this is, I think, what I want us to brainstorm about today. Monalorous. Okay. So monalorous. So that's a big deal. Monalorous. Yeah, because you can do that. It's going to be hard for us to find people to sit down and have do a proper dialectic with. But when you're watching stuff on Instagram, I want a process, or to give the structure for, the language for, something for us to be able to evaluate the things that we hear. And I think that that's something that we talk about, but that's really missing. We end up just being like, be skeptical when you read something. Check whether the source is, reputable. But mostly it just falls on, when we see it, does it seem right or wrong to us? And what we cannot do, of course, is just say, do I have a counter argument for that? Because you will always have a counter argument for anything, everything, right? That's the agit. In the dialer's pre-checklist, we talked about some things to look out for, to know whether you're talking to someone who's just totally in agit, where it's just their agits that are interacting with you, or whether you're talking to someone who other its are also involved, and they're actually kind of processing what you're saying, rather than just they haven't lawyered up. So, of course, in our monalorous, that's going to be the first thing we do. We check, is this person abiding certain principles? And we need really easy ways to check that. So it's really a or you can just call it an alorous. An alorous checklist. So that can just be your personal one, a monalorous, or it can be something that you prepare with your buddy, a dialorous. Make sure both of us are ready to actually have a conversation and not just sling shit at each other that we believe and claim to be chocolate. 2024 Delber 30 Bravo. Okay. That's not clear. So Alaris. That's nice. Alaris. Then we have Malaris. Um, evaluating a evaluating discourse for potential resolution. And then Dialaris. Okay. All right. Okay. So, oh, this is annoying. Okay. But did that not help? Okay. So what are we doing right now? We want to update you about where we're at. We just thrown a bunch of words at you, haven't we? Um, I mean, the original purpose was to figure out myself, what do I do now with my time? Just concretely. Uh, and I thought I'd also use it as an opportunity to update you. So we need to, Monalris, look at disagreements, agreements. We don't need to be recording the screen right now. What am I? Okay. Look at disagreements. What do you do with them? Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's enough for that. This is in a few years. All right. Anyway, next, we've got. Let's just jot down some stuff we have to learn. Obviously, there's lots we have to learn, but here's what we've discovered that we have to learn: a conlang, constructed language for that's supposed to make it easier to communicate, sort of logically. Um, and it would also be good to learn Tokipona because that's about simplicity. We don't need to put that here now. I don't know when we're gonna do this. Okay, again, you're just watching this. You want to fucking learn this with me, please? I want us to talk every week. Okay. Bio research. We have to read more Shermer, such as How We Believe. Okay. Okay. I think that's that. I mean, this is the only book that comes to mind. Um. Uh, See, my dad asked me on a call that we had when we last spoke, when we talked about the finance thing. He asked whether my work is based on research, which we're not going to let ourselves be offended by right now. Actually, you know what? Nounce to pounce. We're offended by that because of how many times he asked us that, And yet, when we show him the research, he doesn't want to hear it. And also, no. We're not justifying it. We're announcing it. Okay. Announce to pounce. Okay. First, announce. I feel frustrated that my dad asks me whether my work is based on research. Let's specify that I, I am interpreting his question as skepticism that my work is based on research. Well, here's how one way we can pounce. Um, I mean, yes, but it's not like a skepticism in a rejection sense. It might just be that he doesn't feel convinced yet. And I know that he's not someone who goes looking to get convinced of anything. He just, wants to convince other people. Um, so that actually already has pulsed that a little bit. Very good. It's not that he's saying, "Oh, I don't believe that's based on research." It's that he just doesn't feel convinced it's based on research. And of course, he's never really had the opportunity. I mean, or, he's never taken the opportunity. Okay, so that's good. Number two is that it's not immediately like based on, I mean, it is, but it isn't. All right, so here, maybe this is a good chance to talk about theory. Oh, and then I have to learn, I got to learn dozens more actual fallacies, actual mallets. I know quite a few, I could name for you quite a few cognitive biases, but very few actual fallacies, things that are, I mean, they're all mallets, but yeah, things that are qualified as categorized as fallacies, I don't know much about, but we got the taxonomy for that. So that's awesome. So we do have to learn taxonomy. I mean, learn fallacies, because otherwise it's not possible to do a analysis without knowing those. Because just the ones that I've learned recently have helped me enormously sort of hear them happen. Biases are harder to hear happen because when you learn the fallacy, you tend to learn it in its argument form, what it would look like in an argument. Whereas bias is a thing you understand that agent's happening backstage. Don't really understand what, it's harder to recognize, I think. Or maybe I just said nonsense. Okay. All right. Okay. So what is it? All right, let me take a little break.